Hello, everyone. Welcome to All In on Real Estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. To start this meetup, because when I was in the military, no one in my circle talked about real estate. A lot of time we talked about debt and other things, other finances, but nothing about real estate. So I wanted to start a meetup where people can learn about real estate and start building generational wealth for them and families. I'm very, very excited for our guest speaker today, Mr. Anthony Torres. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, doing well. Definitely call me Tony though.
Yeah, yeah. See, I had to go to government name, but then I had to go to the other name.
Don't put yourself through that much work, Aaron, to say that long Anthony name. Just keep it short, man.
All right, I got you, man. I got you, man. So I'm not going to hold nobody's time up. I'm gonna ask you. I ask everybody else. What is your origin story into real estate?
That's a great question. I got into real estate really during the pandemic. I was in school. I was going to go for healthcare finance, and during the pandemic, I kind of saw how the healthcare landscape was changing, and really saw how people were losing spouses and kids and stuff to COVID, but they were still getting a bill. And I had a huge problem with that. So really just started exploring a different avenue while I was in college. I was taking 3 real estate classes at one time. Saw a friend of mine on LinkedIn closed on a 160 unit building in Dallas. I called him up, asked him like, how in the world did you do this? Because I know how much money you don't make. And that started the conversation right there. So he took some time off for me to really talk about multifamily. And then I really just set in on multifamily for the longest time. And then I started working for Zillow, and now I work for a large management company, and also do have Core 13 as well. So we focus on multifamily, build to rent, and golf courses. So that's really kind of the high level origin story that got me moving, and really just kind of pumping it up and keep on pressing forward, especially in the landscape that we're in right now.
What's up? So let me ask you this: what is some of your early challenges when you first got started?
Yeah, when you first get started, I feel like there's 2 advantages to commercial real estate. There's either this advantage that it's just like residential, and you can just go put an LOI in, and then you have the deal and money will come to you because you have a good deal. Well, you start realizing that it doesn't necessarily work that way. That there's people that are always bigger than you that can just come in and outbid you for assets. So then the challenge that came from that was I really learned that I had to start getting involved with people that were further along than I was, that knew more than I did. So I started doing that, and I figured, okay, I've got some partners now. Let's go start submitting LOIs. Problem solved. Same thing happened. Nothing would come from it. And it really just showed that you not only can have just a good deal and great partners to go submit LOIs on, but you have to have people that are in your corner. You could say the word mentor, but not always you're going to have a mentor. You just got to have people in your corner that are willing to back what you're doing and understand the vision of where it is that you're trying to go. So in the competitive landscape that we have in multifamily, one of the biggest challenges is that I've always lived in really, really competitive markets: the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Waco, Texas, then Tampa. Those are 2 of the hottest markets in the country. So one of the biggest challenges was overcoming that and learning how to accept no. That we're gonna hear more no's in this industry than we hear yeses, and just keep on working towards the yeses.
I love that, man. I think that's very smart. So how did you? I think you make a good point about the yeses and the nos, but how did you deal with that? How would you deal with your resiliency and things like that when you get nos from either partners or investors?
Yeah, that's a good question, Aaron. I think that early on, just from things that have happened in my past, I lost 180 pounds to try to join the Navy, and I got denied from the Navy. I couldn't go to college right out of high school because my parents made too much money and I couldn't get any aid for it. Just in my upbringing, it's not a a pity party story. It's just I've been told no a lot, in life, and understanding that no is an answer, it's not an emotion. We seem to have this mentality in the world that yes is an accomplishment and no is an emotion. But sometimes the right answer that you need to hear is no. I think about all these people, like, if we look in the multifamily landscape right now, think of all these people that took on a ton of bridge debt right now. And they're coming on to a point where they got to refinance now soon. They got to figure something out. Well, imagine if they would have said no then. Imagine if they would have been told no. What would life have been like? They wouldn't have to be figuring these challenges out. So I think that accepting the word no as just an answer, and then you just take it and move on. Don't meditate on it for too long. Don't think of it more as an emotion. Just accept it, move on, and on to the next one. Because the quicker you move on and on to the next one, the quicker you are to your yes.
I love that, man. I think that's very, very smart. And I think that the word no can be so demeaning and really hurtful, and you take it personal and you get emotional about it, and then you can get stuck. So I think that's very, very smart, man.
Yeah.
So moving forward from the adversity that you've been through, what are some of the lessons that you have learned as you move forward? Besides the partners and things like that, is anything that insightful that you like, man, I really learned something pretty new recently, or not that long ago?
Yes, I have learned to aspire to be the dumbest person in the room. Number one, be a creature of knowledge. Be somebody that even when you think you're a subject matter expert, when you think that you know exactly what you're talking about, the one thing you don't know is what other people that are involved in the same thing you are have to think about that idea or that deal or anything. So being quick to listen and slow to speak, understanding all aspects of what people think about any part of the deal, whether it be, the location, the lending terms, the insurance, anything. It's really just hearing people out. You don't have to agree with everything, and it's okay to disagree. But learn to close your mouth and open your ears. I believe that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And just, being attentive to that. The other thing that I've learned, and I guess you said aside from partners, but this is just one that I feel really strong about, is that real estate is probably the only business out there, aside from team sports, I guess you could say, that you will not be able to do it alone. Like, you physically cannot do it alone. You can go be an engineer alone. You can go study and figure everything out alone. You can do a lot of professions alone, but real estate is the one thing that you'll never be able to do alone. So the quicker you accept that, and the quicker that you realize that there's enough of this pie to go around for everybody and you still be taken care of, the better you're going to be, and the better you're going to be to your partners and to all stakeholders involved.
Man, you dropping some gems today, man. You dropped some gems today, man. That's I love that. Was that instilled into you when you first started about being a team sport, or was it something that you had to learn along the way?
I think it came along the way. I had a feeling, just because understanding the real estate landscape as a whole, you start realizing that, even if you were to try to do it alone, you got to get a lender involved, you got to get an agent involved, or a broker involved. You're going to have people involved. But it really hit me when I was just submitting LOIs by myself and I wasn't taken seriously, because people, brokers would ask, like, what's your track record? What have you done? Where have you been? Do you own any other assets? And I started getting these no's, and reasons why I was getting the no's was because I wasn't being taken serious. I wasn't being looked at, even though I was dead serious. I wasn't being looked at with a lot of clout. And I started realizing that it's going to take a village to be able to do this. And the moment that you realize that I'd rather have 10% of a watermelon than 100% of an apple, the better you're just going to get more watermelons when you do that than you will apples. And you just are able to compound your efforts when you work with other people, especially like-minded ones that are not selfish, people that are fine to take that 10% instead of wanting their 100% of the apple per se. Maurice Philogene taught me that on a pretty cool phone call.
Oh, cool. That's the guy
Yeah.
right there. That's the guy right there.
He's the man. He's
Yeah,
the man.
he is, man. I gotta get him back on the part on the meetup
Yeah.
in the near
Yeah.
future, definitely. So one thing that I did see when I looked at your bio and things like that was point out was you're an underwriter.
Yeah.
Where did that was it trial by fire for you, underwriting, or was something that just come natural for you?
Well, that's a good question. So I went to school for finance. So taking 3-4 real estate classes in college, you have to underwrite all different types of assets. I mean, but you do it in a more academic way. You don't do it in a creative way like we do with different lending terms, different insurance props, all that kind of stuff. I mean, so you do it at a very high level. But just that mindset was really just kind of instilled in me from that. And then when I started working at Zillow, that's all I did all day. So I'm underwriting homes for Zillow. I did it in college. And then I moved over to Mind, where I work right now, and I underwrite homes all day. I underwrite portfolios of homes. I underwrite build to rent targets and disposition target. I mean, just all day I'm underwriting stuff. So it's something that it's kind of counterintuitive because I'm a huge people person. And a lot of times you don't, it's kind of like stereotypical that your underwriters are more financially minded. And then you have people that go raise capital and get involved with brokers, asset management. But it's kind of a weird, influx that I can do both. Just because I literally do it for a living. So I underwrite hundreds of homes a day, and then multifamily and built to rent assets. So it's just something I've just become really, really good at.
It's a lot of repetitive stuff. This
Yeah.
over the course of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, practice make perfect. So
yeah, and I'm not perfect by far, not perfect, but just more comfortable with it.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. Man, please talk about. I know I'm a little all over the place, but please talk about your logo. I like your logo. What is behind your logo?
Yeah, so I'll step out of the way. Go ahead, see it. So, my wife and I, when we started down this journey, we really wanted to make sure that we established a company that was really based around our mission, like what we want to do. So Core 13 Capital is obviously our commercial real estate company. We have 3 legs, our build to rent, multifamily, and then golf courses. But what our entire mission is to be on mission through real estate. Like, we seek to use real estate as an avenue to go deploy resources into biblical missions around the world, both here domestically and around the globe. So what really started this was, I have a lot of friends that work in the nonprofit sector. They work for mission organizations such as Compassion International, which is based out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. What they do is they seek to end global poverty for children. So I called up some friends there, and I just wanted to know some quick statistics. And I found, at the time of my phone call, I found that there's roughly 700 million people in the world that live below the global poverty line, which is $1.93 a day. So then I got to thinking, like, wow, even just living here in the States, you're in the top percentile of the world. So I started realizing, just like, got away from real estate for a little bit and started just thinking about things. And I started thinking about, there's people out there that don't have any water to drink for weeks. And we have swimming pools in our backyard. There's nothing wrong with that. But we just wanted to have a company that seeks to serve on missions to make lives better for people and grow the gospel around the world, and use real estate to do it.
Man, I love that, man. That's awesome, man. That's an interesting stat. I mean, that's basically probably a little bit under now 10% of the world.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because 700 million. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit under 10% of the world. We have over 7 billion people now in the world. So that's a sad stat in itself. That I think we can do a whole meetup on that.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not a stat that I go around clouding at all, but it is something that when you think about it, and then you think of the things that we want to achieve in life, it really just kind of put things into perspective for my wife and I. That
Mhm.
you know, if we get to where we want to be financially, if you make $1 million a year, I don't need $1 million a year. I can live off 700,000 and donate the rest. You know what I'm saying? Like I can do that. And
Yeah.
that I'm just speaking for me personally, but that is just kind of our mission. Like we can go make a difference in people's lives, and we can use the largest cash flowing assets in the world to do it.
Well, I feel the same way. I mean, definitely like the first thing I'm gonna do is any money that I really make goes right to the church, goes
Amen.
right to the mission, goes right to spreading the gospel around the world. Definitely. So, I definitely have plans to do that with my church, as far as having different resources, putting money toward different resources that we can do to spread the gospel, to get more people saved, because you never know what rapture is coming. So I definitely all down for what you're saying, man. Love
Amen.
it.
And it doesn't take much when we really think about it. It doesn't take much. It just takes a little bit of a stretch. That's it. But
Yeah.
$1 for us is nothing, but $1 for someone in a third world country with no water goes a long, long way.
Yeah, definitely right about that, man. Now going back to what you said about your logo and things like that, one thing that got me intrigued was the golf courses. Tell
Yeah.
me more about the golf courses and what you're doing with that.
Yeah, so golf course is a cool story. I think I told Nathan about this when I was talking to him last, but basically that was just I spoke it to a couple people and got introduced and blessed. That's what happened. So when I was working at Zillow, this is how it started. When I was working at Zillow, I started seeing interest rates incrementally climb there. But they were only climbing like 1 basis point, 2 basis points. Like we see this large influx of 75 basis points hikes now. So it's recognizable. But they were climbing back then. They were just doing it by like 1 basis point, maybe 2 basis points a week. It wasn't anything that you would really notice, and banks weren't even catching on to try to make the spread from the prime rate. Like it wasn't anything to think about. So when I saw it and I started seeing things in Tampa, for example, where I was living, I started noticing that assets were trading at $1 million over guidance. And I mean, I wasn't standing a chance, and people were literally going to best and final at $1 million over guidance and putting $500,000 down, not hard, non-refundable. I mean, that's a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Just to put down, and then if you lose it, I mean, you're losing somebody's earnest money right there. So I just started thinking to myself, there's got to be something else that I can kind of diversify into, that I could either syndicate or JV or something. So I just sat back and started thinking, like, what if I do golf courses? Like, I wonder how profitable they are. Like, wonder what opportunity there is. So I got in touch with Parker Purcell, who is my dear friend. I'm sure you guys know him.
Yes, we do.
He is a beautiful person. I just spent 3 days with him, so it was a lot of fun. But so his family owns a golf course, and we got to talking, and he started just kind of going through the expenses with me. I mean, I play golf, but I only understood it at the time from a player's perspective, not the business side of it. So he started going through like the expenses and what kind of expenses you can avoid, and then what you're going to just have to eat all the time, like water and maintenance on the course, just to get an idea of it. So at that time, another individual in my network introduced me to who is now my business partner. So my business partner worked for 20 years at Arnold Palmer Golf Management in Orlando, Florida, worked for Disney, the 4 courses there. And then he went and worked out in California across the bay from Olympic Club in Harding Park at Presidio. So, I mean, he's got a lot of clout in this from the business standpoint. He's part of a group called Advanced Golf, and all it is a bunch of, Arnold Palmer Golf directors and Disney golf directors that came together, started an investment group. They're not a business. It's a group of investors, and they go around and they buy already successful golf courses that are discounted by resources that they don't really know. So for example, the golf course that we have in Chicago, it's a 27 hole golf course, sits inside of 4,500 homes in an HOA. It has a restaurant that's never open for dinner and closed during the wintertime. It has a wedding banquet that did 2 banquets last year, and it's in the middle of Chicago. It's literally, it's got all the potential in the world, and right now the NOI on it is like 640,000. So the thing is cash flowing like crazy. And it's putting off 40% of its annual revenue. It's 40% of the purchase price of this asset. So literally we can just go in there, open the thing up, turn the restaurant on and serve hot dogs, and we'll make more money. It's literally just a great spot to be. And we're going to go in there and we're going to turn the thing up, and we're going to generate a good bit of revenue. We're going to optimize it, and we're going to make it a great asset for all the people within that community. So it's a little different. Most people aren't doing it, but I just see the opportunity there.
Right. Well, as long as you see it, that's all that matters. As long as the team sees it, I think that's wonderful right there, man. I think that's very smart, and I don't think that you think outside a little outside the box, because when you think about real estate, you think about real multifamily, self-storage, something like that, mobile home parks. You don't think about golf courses. You don't think about mezzanines, things like that. So that's a little bit outside the course, but yeah. It remind me how mezzanines are a little bit too, that you can change a couple of things around, put a restaurant right and fix a couple of things, and you're really cash flowing. So yeah, I think it's very, very smart, man.
And one thing that I would say, Aaron, and I have a feeling you'll agree with me, when you go to people, because when you do things like a golf course that's really outside the box, you go to people just to see what their taste is, like to kind of just get their idea, like, what do you think about this? And when 9 out of 10 people are telling you that it's a bad idea, it's probably a pretty good idea. Because most of the time, people only say to stay in your lane for one of 2 reasons. They either say stay in your lane because they're in that lane and they don't want any more competition, or they're too afraid to go to that lane. That's the only reasons that they would say that. So I got told, like, you should stay in your lane. And when 9 out of 10 people say stay in your lane, I'm going to go to that lane, because there's a reason that lane right there is empty and people are making money in it.
Right, man. I love it, man. I love that, man. That's something that definitely people should listen to over and over again, and really think outside the box. I think a lot of times we get so square into this one vacuum, and don't want to think, globally or is bigger than what we are doing right now, man. So I think that's very, very smart, and I know you guys are gonna be very successful doing that.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And then the last thing I would say really quick, Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt you, is that when you look back at multifamily, for example, this isn't all encompassing. It's not for everybody. But I think that there's a large percentage of people that got into multifamily or self-storage or retail or whatnot because they saw so many other people in it. Like, they went to that because they saw so many people in it. They said, this must be the way. And that's it. So whenever you follow, and if you see a school of fish going one way, that means that there's a lot of open water over here and there's a ton of water to be had. So go over here and see what's over here, and you'll be the first one, and you'll have all the buffet you want. So it's to your point, think outside the box, think of ways to get creative, because no one ever loses respect for the one that was creative and tried it and it didn't work out. They lose respect for the one that stayed just the status quo, didn't want to change, and it still didn't work out.
Have you guys done about doing any ground up construction?
On like just development?
Yeah, development, anything like that?
Yeah, so we have a build to rent deal in Foley, Alabama right now we're doing. So I'm a huge fan of build to rent, and we can go into that here in a minute. But that's probably my favorite asset class right now. So we're going into phase 2 construction, which is your horizontal phase, where you're going to put the infrastructure in, the roads, the lights, anything that lays on the ground. That's what we're putting in, and we'll be starting the raise on that pretty soon, getting it going.
Why is that your favorite asset class?
Because I think that we are slowly but surely becoming more and more like Europe. And I say that with all the respect to, just the world, but I did some research about a month ago when we were looking at a deal here in Greenville. And I started seeing, I started to notice that in 2020, the US, per the data source that I had, was the 25th most expensive nation in the world. As of 2022, we're the 10th most expensive nation in the world. So that kind of was alarming. The other thing that alarmed me was that the top 5 most expensive nations in the world are in Europe. And of those, they are primarily rental nations. So take, for example, Switzerland. Depending on what data source you go to, Switzerland, 3% of the population owns 100% of the real estate. So what are people doing? They're renting. London, it's like 40% of the nation, or the 40% of the people own 100% of the real estate. So the rest of them are renting. Look at Germany. It's like 40 or 45% of the people there own 100% of the real estate. So that means that 55% are renting. So there's this migration that we're seeing in America of more and more people renting. Housing is becoming more expensive from a purchase standpoint. Whether interest rates are up or down, it's still going to be expensive. Prices can come down, but if rates are up, you're going to pay more. Second, people don't necessarily want to buy a house for their primary residence anymore. They'll buy it for an investment, but they don't want to be tied to a note for 30 years to live in. So I was actually having this conversation earlier with somebody around build to rent. They wanted to know, just about the entire landscape of build to rent. And I said, we as investors, we need to treat this as a business. What do Apple, Microsoft, Nike, all the greatest businesses in America do? They don't put out the product they want to put out. They put out products their consumers want. That's what they do. If I go to Aaron and I say, what would you rather have, Aaron? Would you rather pay me rent to live in a middle unit with someone above you, below you, and on both sides of you, and it's going to be $1,500 a month? Or you can come live in your own house, have a memory maker right here, and I'm going to charge you $1,800 a month for it. Which one would you rather do?
Probably $1,800.
You see what I'm saying? So consumers, they want to have their own isolated space. They want to be in a neighborhood, but they don't want to pay for a house. So we can build an apartment type unit, but put it in a house and create a subdivision and have all the amenities that a multifamily has. It'll have a clubhouse, a pool, everything. So,
I find that stat intriguing, because you said the top 5 are in Europe. I would think that the top 5 would be in Asia.
Well, let me reiterate what I was saying, or rephrase it. 5 of the top 10 are in Europe. 5 of the top 10 are in Europe. It was Belgium, England, Germany, Switzerland, and Italy. Top 5, or the 5 top most expensive in Europe. And I can rental nations.
I know England's expensive. I lived there for a little bit, so I know England's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more questions. I'm gonna let the attendees ask you questions, man. This has been awesome. Yeah. So where do you want to be at in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, that's a great question, man. I want to have at least 5 build to rent communities, 3 golf courses, and I want to be able to have the option to leave my W-2. I am one of the very, very lucky ones that I thoroughly love my W-2. I absolutely love every bit of it. It's amazing. Because I do exactly what we do here. So it's really, really fun. It's really cool. And I want to be giving away 30% of everything that Core 13 brings in to missions, both domestically and globally. I think that there's a real misconception that when you're on mission, that you're on mission for other countries, when there's plenty of people here in the States that need the Lord, and they need help too. So I definitely don't want to just go deploying money to third world nations and not taking care of our people here. So I definitely want to partner with great people that see the same vision, and are willing to make the stretch with Core 13 going forward, willing to say, you know what, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And we go take down assets to be on mission. That's what I want to see.
And what would you tell a new and aspiring real estate investor what they should do? What's your choice words for them?
Be okay with the word no. And don't be afraid to reach out to anyone. LinkedIn, for example, is a very intimidating place. We kind of get intimidated by the bigger people on there, the ones that have a lot of doors, a lot of clout in this industry. Every single person I've ever reached out to has been class act, nice. Don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Be okay with not knowing something and asking the question to learn, because everyone here wants to teach somebody. We all want to. And I think that that's something that I struggled with early, was being afraid of that. And then when I just muscled up the courage to go ask people, everyone was so receptive and so nice and wanting to help and just being willing to accept help.
Okay.
How about you, Aaron? How about you? I want your take on that. What would you say? To
what?
A newbie investor. What would you tell them?
I would tell that person to stick in one niche in real estate, to educate yourself as much as possible, to find a mentor somebody who's already done it. Don't try to do everything by yourself, like you said, and understand that you're limited on what you have. You're unlimited when you're around like-minded individuals who are going the same path you are.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right, man. This has been great. Chantel, another great guest that she did, knocked out the park. Tony, thank you so much, man. We'll open up for the attendees to ask you questions.
Yeah.
So please raise your hand and let's get some questions to Tony. Okay. First question. Anybody? First question.
Man, no questions. This is
wow. Come on, Marcus. You've been unmuted, man. Come on, ask him a question, man.
Well, Tony, I guess my question would be, when you're looking for people to connect with to buy multifamily properties, is there any particular group or investors that you should try to work with, or
yeah, I mean, I think that one thing I try to do is, I stick to a region for sure. So I stick to location based. Like here in Greenville, we have some local people here that I try to again be the dumbest one in the room. There's people here that are established, and if you I guess in a way you could call it submission, but if you submit to the fact that they know the market better than you do, usually they're a bucket of knowledge that they'll just give you without you having to work too hard for it if you just shut up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's one thing, that I would say, Aaron, to your question a minute ago, is just be really good at shutting up and listening. I think that was something that I learned the hard way, and it taught me a lot. So now, like when I'm around people here in Greenville, I just listen, man. I just listen, because they'll tell you everything if you just listen. And I mean, because they want you to succeed. They don't want you to they don't want to be the only one doing it. That's a lot of work. They want you to be successful and work with them.
Team. Okay. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Tony, it's funny too. You say that because the book I just read is called "Shut Up and Listen."
Probably a great book.
Yeah, it is a great book. It's a great business book.
Yeah.
The Houston Rockets owner wrote it, and he actually on the audio book he talks actually in the book, not somebody else.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That's
He
awesome.
has like so many businesses. He went from 30 million to what? He went from 40 million to 4 billion to 40 billion, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it
More
was
money than we have.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but Nathan, you got anything for him? Question you want to ask?
I've actually been trying to think of one, but I don't have one off the top of my head.
I mean, anyone can reach out to me anytime too,
Yeah.
as well.
How long have you been real estate?
4 years now. 4
Gotcha.
years. Yeah, I was gonna start in single family, and then I really realized quickly, I don't have the resources to scale single family. It is scalable. I just don't have the resources to scale single family. So,
Hmm.
it's better to just work with great people and scale in commercial assets.
Yeah. So you were talking about build to rent. Is that for like a single family portfolio or?
Yeah, so build to rent is a very interesting asset class because it is a commercial asset. It is one large asset of smaller components, just like a multifamily asset, except it's horizontal multifamily. And that is the reason I like it is because of just the creativity in it. And just from a financial standpoint, your capex is nothing, and you can hit an extremely high IRR as you build, and then you just refinance out when you get agency debt, and you can start cash flowing it pretty solidly. So, and you create a pretty cool impact on the community. You can also get a lot of tax advantages through the abatements and stuff that local municipalities have. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of advantages beyond just the resident side of it. It's
Yeah.
from a business perspective, there's some real advantages there.
Do you rent all of them, or do you also do some of them for like short-term rentals?
You would typically want to rent them all. Short-term rentals, you just got to be careful with them, because the last thing that you want to do, even if you are right, is you don't want to be battling up against local officials. It just puts your name out there. It puts your business out there. You just don't
Mhm.
want to be dealing with it. Even if you're right, it's just not the where you want to go. So you got to do your research on short-term rentals. You got to make sure you don't have too many turns. It's just best to rent them all out. And the average resident in a build to rent stays about 22 months longer than they do in a multifamily asset. So they don't turn as much either. So you have pretty consistent rent coming in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's going on, Tony?
Hey, what's going on?
The golf courses.
Yeah.
How do those compare to the single families? Not to say that they have to be similar, but just as far as like your preference, is there anything that you prefer about the golf courses over the single families, or vice versa?
So golf courses, that's a great question, Jordan. So golf courses, just imagine this. There's 4 different types that you can buy, that you could own. Could own a municipal one, a public one, a semi-private, or a private one. So we'll only buy one of those. I'm not going to buy a municipal one because I don't want the government telling me what I got to do with my own golf course. I'm not going to buy a semi-private one because I don't want the political beating that public play and private play are going to have with each other. They're just going to disagree with each other. And I don't want private because I don't want members telling me what I have to do with my golf course. So public is the way that we go. And then when we get down to that, it's very, very target market specific. Obviously, not going to buy a golf course in Seattle. No offense, Aaron. It just doesn't. It gets a little chilly up there, and it rains a lot, and it's not a great place to optimize revenue. Not going to buy a golf course in the Northeast because it gets too cold and you only get like a 6-month golf season. I'm not the biggest fan of looking for golf courses in states like Arizona, Nevada. Why? Not because they don't get a lot of play, but because you're going to spend $300,000 a year in water. So it's really important that you find a public golf course that has a lot of population density with people that love to play public golf, that is within a great market with a household income that is, strong enough to support a lot of play on your golf course. So that's why we like Chicago. Chicago usually has an 8 to 10 month golf season. They're actually the largest public play golf market in the nation. You would think that Florida or South Carolina or Arizona would be, but Chicago, number one.
I'm surprised that they have that much playable, that much season.
Yeah, so Chicago people are pretty diehard. They will go play when it's 40 degrees outside as long as there's no snow on the ground.
Ah,
They'll do it. So, I mean, and you can get a lot of, we like to look at it from a business standpoint is we're not trying to maximize revenue at all. We're not trying to maximize density either from tee times and food and beverage. We're trying to optimize it, because when you maximize it, there's only one way you can go, and that's down. When you optimize it, you can pull levers on the food and beverage side. You can pull levers on the tee time side. You can adjust rates a little bit. You just can do a lot more from a business standpoint by being in a really, really dense, great part of a city that supports public golf. So like a bad one would be Greenville. There's not enough population here. A great one would be Atlanta. I mean, that's an excellent market.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I have a question if you have time.
Yeah.
I know that you're really good in building your brand, really good at getting out there. And we've talked before, I absolutely love your mindset. So what would you say to people? Because I mean, I think in this line of work, like, getting investors, raising capital, networking is really important. So what tips do you have? Because I know everyone is some people will say social media, some people will say in-person events, which I think they're both important. But how do you build your network? Just how do you build your network and build your brand?
Yeah, so number one, so that's two different like roads I'll go down, Chantel. Great question. From a branding standpoint, it's really important to understand your target, your mission. I don't like to say the word why, because your why can become diluted over time. Like it's like if your why is financial freedom, well, what happens when you get financial freedom? Like you just stop. You're good, you're done. So it's what is the difference you're trying to make in this business, in whatever business you're in. That is what you need to target your brand around and be authentic to it. Like find something that's meaningful to you, that is probably a goal that's a stretch that's likely never going to be achieved. I'm never going to, cure global poverty for all the kids and families out in the world that are in poverty. It's just not going to happen, but we can try. So, just having that as your focus and build your brand around that. The second thing when it comes to networking is networking. I've been to a ton of networking events, been to different conferences. I'm sure that all of you have. Aaron, I know you have. Majority of the people, when you network, are just as afraid as you are to go talk to everyone in there. And that's just the truth about it. People are intimidated by people for whatever reason. But just have the mindset that if everyone else is intimidated, be the one that is willing to step out of their intimidation and just go talk to people. Because most people are going to be willing and wanting to talk to you. And they want to make things happen, even if it's for themselves. They want to talk to you to see what's there, to see if there's any way that you might be able to help, and just provide value to people, whether you're brand new and you're just willing to listen and willing to do all the grunt work, or if you're seasoned and you're just wanting to move to a new market and meet different people. Willing to just add value to people is the best way to network, not have your own selfish or individualistic goals in mind. That's what I would say.
Great
Uh,
advice.
Lawrence asks, what books or books have you read that changed your mindset?
Most of them are not real estate books, actually. Great question, Lawrence. I would say The Happiness Advantage by Shauna Core. That right there, that book, it just did wonders for me. I'm not going to say that I've been perfect to that book, but it really just changes the attitude that you have towards everyday life. I would say another one. I've read a lot of books. Probably The Millionaire Next Door. Not because I necessarily agree with it, but it just really helped with the mindset side of it. Just kind of having that idea towards investing, towards building a legacy, towards having an impact, and how to really manage your money in a smart way. And then the last book, I would say, man, you guys put me on the spot on this one. Probably Multifamily Millions by David Lindahl. I'm sure some of you guys have read that, but that book right there, I love that it doesn't necessarily just show you how to do it, but it's a book that gives you the belief that you can do it and you will do it. It lays it all out there for you that you can understand the entire industry, because this industry isn't really much different in multifamily, industrial, triple net lease. It's all the same syndication model, JV model, whatever you want to do. It's all the same. It's just a different target investors, and different lingo and jargon in it, but it's all the same process for the most part.
Okay. Okay. Can you break down maximizing versus optimizing in real estate?
Yeah. So good question, Courtney. Maximizing would be, so if you were to take multifamily, for example, the way that multifamily can really thrive is using ancillary income streams. So if your goal is to optimize or to maximize for this example, you would put the rents to the highest rent that you could have it at. You would literally just put it to the max of where the market is, and then you'll essentially have a bunch of turns, and then you'll be redoing it all again. When you optimize, you try to hit the target occupancy. You keep it at a really manageable level that is profitable for you investors, but also manageable for your residents. And it allows you to put different things in place, like different pet rents, garage rents, your rub systems, all of that in place, and not have as much turnover. So that's really the best way to do it. It's really no different than how a lot of us break it down in the first place. But if you have an eye towards maximization, you really can't go anywhere but down. So if you have an eye towards optimization, you'll always be ascending, I guess you could say.
Any more questions for Tony?
Yeah. Hey, Tony, I think I have a quick one.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, so I thought it was an interesting parallel you made with kind of what's happening in Europe. I'm just wondering if there's any other trends that we're also seeing kind of develop on this end. Based off of that.
As far as, so there's the inflation trend, and then there's the like one thing that is commonly said is that there's a shortage of housing. Have you guys heard that? Like everyone's heard that. Well, that's a little bit deeper topic, because the shortage of housing is only a shortage because of the great migration that we've had over the past 2 years. So I don't know if this necessarily answers your question, but I do think that the trend in shortage of housing is really only in targeted areas, and that trend is coming from is a direct correlation to the great migration to Florida, Texas, Arizona. I mean, in some parts of like South Carolina, North Carolina, like Raleigh is blowing up right now. I think that the trend of movement is what is causing this quote unquote housing shortage. Because I can promise you there's not a housing shortage in Montana. There's probably plenty of land out there. You can build houses all day long. So the other side of that would be inflationary. Europe is known for high inflation. It's very expensive to live over there. Aaron can attest to that. He lived in England. It's not cheap. So we are becoming more and more like that. High inflation, high expense, harder to find goods. Housing is becoming a premium. And people are willing to pay more for it than they are for pretty much anything else. So I hope that answers your question. Another thing that I think is going to happen is it'll affect, taxes eventually. Taxes will be raised, just like we see in Europe. And the taxes are going to be raised to try to counteract the deficit that we've gotten from stimulus, forgiving student loans, and some other decisions that we've made, whether it be from a supply chain side or a housing, a housing issue. There's just some deficits that we have, and taxes are going to be the way that pay for it. And that is exactly how Europe handles things.
Awesome. No, that's great. I appreciate that perspective. I don't think I necessarily thought about that, even the whole baby boomer millennial trends. I'm not sure if there's a parallel out there, or it's the generations aren't exactly the proportions aren't the same as they are here. But yeah, it's all interesting. So I appreciate you kind of bringing that up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think that there's more to it, Fred. I mean, I think that, are we like Europe now? No. I mean, we don't have a socialist society. We don't have a lot of things that Europe has. But from an economic standpoint, just keep an eye out on that. Just keep an eye out to, where the movement is going. For example, in 2020, multifamily new builds were up like 2,000%. 2020 new housing, new builds were only up like 200%. That's a huge delta between what we're seeing in the rental market versus the ownership market. That is exactly how Europe operates. There's a high rental figure there, just like we talked about earlier. So just keep an eye out on it and just pay attention to it, because it's pretty interesting what's happening.
Okay. Any more questions with Tony before we go to the after party? Okay. Well, Tony, man, thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for everything, man. It's you spit a lot of words of wisdom, a lot of gems. I would recommend anybody to watch the replay of this. And it will be going on tonight on YouTube. This replay of this meetup, and man, this continue to shine, man. Continue to shine. And I love your mission. I love the mission that you guys, you and your wife are on, and where you guys are headed to, man. So, and I think, like I said, one of the biggest things I love what you said was think outside the box, and just don't be like everybody else, like the fish. Don't be like, school of fish. That was a great analogy right there.
I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank all of y'all for having me. It's really always great to just connect with people that I've known for a while, and meet with new people, and I'm always open for contact, and always looking for ways to work with people that are mission focused, doesn't have to be our mission. It just has to be a mission to make a difference. That's all it is. So happy to connect with anyone, and let's get some big things done.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to say this too. My man Lawrence Laddie is on here, and me and Lawrence are talking. And oh yeah. Your mentor, his mentor. You live close by him, don't you?
Who's that?
You don't know who Lawrence mentor is? Who's a big guy in Greensville, South Carolina now? Mr.
Arn?
Say guy, huh?
Arn Senadella?
No. Oh man, Lawrence gonna kill me when I say this too. What podcast were you on recently?
What podcast was I on recently? Man, oh, Jerome Myers.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
so he was so Jerome lives in Greensboro, about 3 hours from me.
Oh, okay. He
Yep.
lives in Greensboro. Okay.
He lives in North Carolina.
Okay,
He lives
okay,
in North Carolina.
okay. I got you.
Yep.
I
Oh yeah,
got
Jerome's cool. I
Okay.
loved.
I just have to say that was the best podcast I've ever heard in my whole entire life. So if you have
Wow.
not listened to that podcast, like I had to call Tony up. It was such a good podcast with Jerome. I you know it too. Like I have people that are not even in real estate listen to that podcast. It is so good. So make sure you listen to that podcast if you're on here. That was like the best podcast ever. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just had to say it was so good.
I
Oh,
appreciate it.
problem.
That was Jerome's awesome, and I appreciate such the kind words, Chantel. Like I can't say this enough that I believe that we're here to be a mission. Like we're here to be used, and that's all that I want to do. And I'm glad that it spoke to you, and I hope that it speaks to many other people. To take action, not take no as an emotion, but just take it as an answer and just keep on going. Yeah, so I appreciate it, Chantel.
So thank you, Chantel, for the connect to have Tony on here. So I had to just to let you guys know, I'm not gonna hold you guys up, but I was talking to Lawrence earlier this week, and Tony was my last guest speaker. I didn't have no guest speakers Sunday. So I started reaching out to a whole bunch of people, and now I booked 9 people in one day. Now we up to November 17th. So I think we're good for the month of November as well. I got one more guy. He's an Air Force guy I used to work with. He's going to be on here in November. So we are booked from September, October, now November. So Lawrence, man, that's a challenge to you, man. Let's get your numbers up.
Guys, you all are crushing it. This has been awesome. I'm happy to also get anyone for you, Aaron. I mean, I know probably some great people that would love to speak. That would just be great. Great.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I see that I'm hold on, man. Hold on, Jordan. I'm gonna try to get that podcast for you. I see it on his LinkedIn account. He has the on his LinkedIn account. So let me see. Okay. Was it okay? All right, here you go, Jordan. I got the put this on here so everybody can see. Let's go to that link right there. I think Tony hit that on his LinkedIn account for the podcast with him and Jerome. So check it out. I gotta check it out myself. All right, guys. So I'm not gonna hold you guys up. We're gonna go to the after party, but I just want to say thank you guys. As always, come on the meetup. I hope that you guys can watch the replays over and over again and learn so much from what Tony was saying. Think outside the box. I just want to say God bless to everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next week.